This done with. Okay. The truth about Area 51. The truth about Area 51, well, it has many truths, but one of them is that it was a search and rescue base at one time. That a plane had gone missing, a passenger plane, or some kind of plane, and it turned out to be bad gusts around one of the hillsides, which was particularly bad, like 2 or 3 times a year or something like that. It was particularly windy or something. There are certain times of the year when the winds were bad there, and like 3 months or 6 months or 3 months out of the year, winds were particularly stormy and bad there. The kind of conditions you want to fly in. And some plane had flown in these conditions and crashed with people on board. The plane went missing for a long time or something like that. Anyway, though, but basically, the winds were bad there, and pretty much I heard about it. I ordered a permanent search and rescue to be there or to warn people not to go there and stuff. And it was also kind of like a playground for people with planes. And I kind of turned it into a competition at one point. And basically, they were messing around with props there, the different kind of wooden props, and kind of pushing the limits of props, to see how good wooden props can be. And I kind of made it a competition for kind of like a prop and airplane competition. The fastest planes could win $100 to $500. And back then the issue was the props. If you spun a prop too fast or didn't have the mountings just right, the wooden props would come apart, basically, or had a tendency to just fly apart because they're really pushing some real numbers on those props. And the props would just basically come apart. And there's this one area that was really hard to get up into, and that was also like another part of the competition. I kind of set it up as basically, if you can land on a hillside over there, and they kind of messed around with that. But it was also like for a speed contest. I think I set the bounty at $100 to $500 for the fastest planes, in the worst point of the year or something like that. It was something a long time ago, when they were messing around with props and stuff, wooden props, and it was just barns back then. And then later on, the war happened. We made it secret, and they moved the town. They moved the town twice at Area 51. It used to be right where the base is, and then it got moved, and then the war happened, and then it got moved a second time, out even further, and then the whole area became secret and base. Like, and maybe they moved it 3 times. They moved the town like 3 times. Basically, bought everyone's home and said leave, and then that was the base, and then it became, because I offered up $1,000 for a fast plane or a really good plane, and there was also this competition where you touch the wall and stuff, and that's where the wing walkers come from. People, I ordered one of the blasting teams to go from Mount Everest over there to Area 51 and blast a wall somewhere on there, so you had like 90 or 100 feet of sheer rock face, so they could go around and touch the wall or something. There was some mountain face somewhere around there. I don't know where it was exactly. I just ordered it. I was like, blast a mountain face, see if you can touch the wall. But it was somewhere around Area 51, I believe. And for the airplane competition at night, a lot of the airplanes, because it was $100 to $500 per, for the winning airplane that could fly in the worst or conditions or bad conditions, they'd do a speed contest around. There was like 2 mountain ranges right there, and they would do this loop around the 2 mountain ranges. One mountain range wasn't enough, so they included the second one because to get the speed up, because it was too hard. The planes were too evenly matched. So I said, go ahead and include the second mountain range. So just extend the course, just like instead of they could cut through or they could go straight, kind of this little L-shaped thing or something like that somewhere over there, I believe. Anyway, but there's 2 mountains that were fairly obvious in the distance or something like that. They could fly around. And they did that for a while, with the wooden props, and the wooden props, would spin off, and then that kind of gets into kind of the more technology with aluminum and stuff like that. But the contest was for $500 went to the winning airplane and stuff like that. It was just stuff, mess around, push to the edge of the envelope, basically, to get people to get inventive, and they did. They got really inventive, and the planes seriously got a lot better, and that was back in the cloth plane days before the military. Before the aluminum planes, and then later on, they after the war or somewhere around back in history they got the aluminum planes, and then by then it was a military base and it became a secretive military base, and then they were messing around with aluminum planes and also developing and building aluminum planes and messing around, I believe, with different kind of materials for building the planes as well. Like I said, one of the things that when white scale had invented, or those people had invented, is aluminum. They had invented it somewhere around. I believe there's a town called White Scale, and then there is Wind Scale. White Scale was a town that was safe, that was not radioactive, and then there's Wind Scale that was the radioactive and reactor portion of the Inventi place. And White Scale was demoed and moved because it was too close to the affected radiation, and they moved them somewhere else, I believe. But those were the top 1% of people. But basically, over there at White Sands, not White Sands, over there at Area 51, became the secret military base, and then I think that's about, that's my knowledge of it. And that's where wing walking came in, is somewhere around Area 51. And other things. Like, you'd have to go back and break into the military and see exactly what happened. But back in the past, Area 51 was just nothing but barns. People would roll their planes into barns, and then somebody won the competition for $1,000. And back then, that was like a king's ransom. Considering the what's called the Mount Rushmore was $50,000 for like 3 or 4 years. And even another $100,000 for the full 12 years or something like that. And then over at Area 51, people won $1,000. That's one person, one plane. Of course, building a plane is fairly complicated. There's a lot of just the props alone would take months to build, and they were making their own glues to put the props together, and that was part of it. The pilots and the plane crews were very secretive about the glue they used to actually get the props to stick together. The wood glue. Because the props, that wood glue would, they would build these props, and they would spin them as fast as they can, and then they would, the props would come apart if the glue wasn't like perfect. So that's where a lot of the wood glue technology kind of comes from too, is that they had very special mixtures of glue to make the props, which was their own personal secret. Which was what was part of the $1,000. They got $1,000, and basically I got all the technology and glue information on how to build their plane. Basically, that was what the $1,000 was for. I basically bought their plane and said, "Thank you very much." That's what the American government did. They said, "Thank you very much. Great job. Now, now we'll be taking that and all the information you have on how to build it, and you can go build another one that's better." Basically. So America always had the best planes, pretty much, from Area 51. So when you give someone $1,000, that's what you get, and that's what I offered. Basically, all the information on how to build their plane and how they built their plane. And then American government could build it on their own. And they got the $1,000. And that was to also go build another plane. Build a plane that's better. Anyway, and that's what that was all about. It was basically, instant technology, and then they had to go do better than that, which was the best that they could do. So America always had the best planes. And that was my little secret there. And then, like I said, the war happened or whatever, and we developed aluminum, and then planes became aluminum, and they became a lot faster because of the props. I thought about the little cone that goes on the front of the prop. I was like, maybe a cone that goes on the front, that would look cool. Get the air to go around it. And it turned out, some people are like, who cares about the cone? But then, I like the cone. So, and then later on, they like the cone too. So, it's just a little cone that goes on the front of the prop. My contribution after inventing flight is the cone that goes on the prop. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Woo-hoo. But yeah, I was a child by then. I was like, how about a cone? But people loved it. It worked really, for some reason it worked really well and was really cool. But when I was a child by then, I was like, how about a cone? What more can I do? I invented the whole theory of the wing, so... and the idea of a rivet. So there wasn't really much I could do other than a cone. Anyway, and Area 51 became very secretive, and that's basically Area 51. And it became part of the American military, and the best and brightest did better, and better, and better, and better. And it just kind of took off and got a little crazy. So, like I said, along with me and the My American government and everything, also came White Scale, Wind Scale, and Russia. Basically everything that I am is riding on all this stuff. Everything that the American government really is basically riding on all these things. And this is how these things were developed by not only, they were developed by America, but they were also developed by Russia, and they're shared with China and Japan and even Germany. Was shared, all this medical information was shared with all these different groups because, people were dying like crazy, and everyone, all of humanity had to basically pull together at points to end the bacteria plague that was basically sweeping around the world. Ebola, massive uranium contamination. Humanity had to pull together at times, and because I was the leader, I had to pull with them. So they turned to me when they had no one else to turn to or didn't know better, and I did the best I could to help as much as I could, which, I just like, okay, well, how do we deal with this? Okay. And then they, use their particular knowledge and skill base to do what they knew how to do best. I delegate a lot, so, and work within. But, that's how, anyway, I'm getting off subject here. We're talking about Area 51, so.